Okay, I'm going to make a little video today. It's kind of an idiot's guide to how to know that God exists or not. Um, I want to preface the whole thing by saying that I don't have anything written down. I don't have a script. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next, and because I'm doing that, it makes me talk kind of slow, and sometimes when I hear myself talking, I feel like I look like a retard. Anyway, uh, this video is kind of a response to something that happened in a science class one time. About 20 years ago, my wife and I took a science class at a local community college, and the first thing the instructor did after he introduced himself was kind of ridicule the people that believed in God, uh, which was fine. But I was kind of surprised and taken aback, and I didn't have a ready answer for him, and I wish I had. So it's something it's an issue that's I've been concerned about for a long time anyway, a lot longer before than the time that I took that class. Anyway, I have really enjoyed the resource of YouTube. That's one reason why I'm posting it here. I've had a lot of good times watching the fails and everything else that's on there. And then there's also the resources. I see a lot of, I've watched just dozens of videos. And this is supposed experts and that, purporting to back up both sides. I listen to both sides. I'm a very open-minded person. Intellectuals discussing why God doesn't exist or why he does exist. And some scientists are saying that, God doesn't exist, is not supported by science, or that God does exist. Anyway, so I wanted to have something very simple that people could look at in some way of answering that class that I took, and something that could be done in a matter of a few minutes and maybe make a lot of sense to people. So anyway, this would be something along the line of my presentation. Now, I'm going to be using a clipboard with a piece of paper on it, and I want you to think of a classroom with a big chalkboard. So anyway, let's get started. Now, in listening to these intellectuals on both sides, I've noticed that a lot of their arguments, they kind of torture logic. They refer to archaic texts as if the guy they're debating knows the text, and maybe they do. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of people out in the real world, such as myself, don't know what the texts are. I've never read it. I'm always impressed, and I envy their ability to just come right out and quote some of this stuff, and on both sides. So sometimes when I'm listening to somebody that's a person disproving God, I feel kind of bad that, maybe I'm wrong, maybe my sources are poor. And then when I'm listening to somebody who believes in God, a pro-God person, I feel good, and I wish I had access to their sources and their knowledge, and I see all of their books behind them, and I'm impressed with that kind of stuff. I like books. I like reading, and I like thinking about stuff. So anyway, so I've done a lot of listening to both sides. Now, this is my simple presentation, and it's kind of an idiot's guide, and I look at myself as kind of an idiot. Definitely not the brightest bulb in the bunch. Anyway, I'm going to do it with this clipboard and a piece of paper, and I'm going to make it very simple. There's apparently, from what I've watched, two schools of thought. One is the scientific school, and I'm going to put that over here. It's a small s. I don't know if you can see it. I hope you can. And that really means singularity, not science. The two schools of thought there are that the singularity always existed. So looking at it from our time frame, going back billions of eons, it has always existed, always sat there. Wasn't in the middle of space. It was just everything there. And then one day it blew up. And out of that came time, matter, energy, and the laws that control the whole thing. Anyway, so it blew up into everything that we know today. This would be a lot better if I was doing it in front of a large audience. It would make more sense. Now, in here, there's also, as I mentioned, two schools of thought. One, the singularity lasting forever. The other school of thought is that the singularity in the smallest divisible portion of a second came into existence and blew up. Big Bang. It makes little difference how that happened. It's just the other school of thought from what I've gathered. And out of that singularity, again, came time, space, matter, energy, and the laws that controlled those things. Now, to the other school of thought. This would be the non-God group. On the other side, I'm going to put a little G there, and that means God, but it's not a name of any particular God. It's whatever you conceive God to be. It's like just like my name is Stan, and if somebody calls me hey you, I can answer that too. And it's just, or call me a person, and that's what God in this context means. It's not a name of an individual. So anyway, looking at it from this point of view, that school of thought says God lived in an existence. If you read the Bible, you'll see that there's a lot of beings in that existence that God is in, but they're not equal. God is the top dog. Okay, now God decided that he wanted something to exist for whatever reason, and I think I have an explanation, but I'm not going to give that explanation here. Anyway, he decided to put this existence into place. So that gave us everything that we know, everything we're able to measure, everything that we see and hear, all that stuff. He blew that into existence, some by the breath of his nostrils or by the breath of his mouth. Anyway, it all came into existence outside of his existence, his realm that he lives in. So it became into existence in our realm, and out of that breath of his mouth, or however you want to look at it, all of the time, energy, matter, and the laws that control it all came into being, all at the same time. And they expanded out into the universe. Now, for a long time, people that held this view thought that the matter expanded out, then came back into the singularity, and then boomed again and went out. But now we know that it's just going to go out, expand out into space. The matter energy that we can see, the furthest out that our telescopes can possibly see, is traveling at nearly the speed of light and will never ever come back, no matter how much dark energy they find or any of their other bogus arguments. So, anyway, now the interesting thing that I found is something that I read a long time ago, and it's in, let me see here, I thought I could remember it, and I can't. This is in Psalm 102, verse 26. It says the universe will wear out like an old dish rag, which I personally think is what it would look like as the universe expands and the laws that hold everything together start to break down and it just disappear like an old dish rag. Anyway, but that's beside the point. Now, here's the part of the equation that, in my mind, scientists never address. And there's an equation to the whole thing. And not that I can do the math. Other people can, I guess. I add in human experience. Scientists, the philosophers, the learned people, intellectuals, they never add in human experience into this equation. In fact, I'm going to put this down because maybe it's dumb. Now, how many times have you ever run into somebody who has seen a loved one that's passed on, or some type of spirit? Some of the spirits are good, some of them are bad. How many people have you ever experienced that? Have you ever met anyone who's experienced that? I personally have. I happened to see my dad 7 days after he had passed away, and it was also before I knew he was gone. And I've seen spirits in houses. I've run into lots of people that have been touched by the spirit world. Now, going back here, this is a purely mechanistic world. There's no attempt to explain any other life than what can be seen and measured. This world over here starts off with the premise that there's a spiritual world. So that spirit world is what we are seeing into when we see any kind of spirits, a person that's passed on that we know, some spirit that might be doing something bad in our vicinity or good or whatever. So this existence simply doesn't make sense. The equation does not square with what we can see and measure and our human experience. So that only leaves one thing Our human experience is what squares the equation and proves the existence of God or something. Whatever that God's not being the name, but being whatever you conceive that person to be. Now you have to decide, and it's totally up to you to decide what that being is and what that's all about. Now, as I said, there's a good and a bad. We've seen spirits that do bad things and some spirits that do good things. Some people have died. They might attempt to kill themselves, or they died on an operating table, and they went, when they were resuscitated, their story is of going someplace really bad. And that's typically people who have tried to kill themselves. They have a very, very negative experience in whatever the next world is. Many people that have died, let's say on an operating table or in an automobile accident or whatever, they seem to have a very positive experience. Many of them meet a being of light, and then they find out that they're going to have to come back, and they suddenly find themselves back in the world of the living. Now, there's a author. The guy's name is Hugh Ross. This is one of his books. His first book that I read was The Creator and the Cosmos. And he's an astrophysicist from Canada. And he goes back to these laws that I mentioned. When the Big Bang occurred, it created the laws. It created space. It created time. Energy and matter, and the laws were created at the same time that governed all of that stuff. Now the interesting thing is, and now he's able to do the math, I can't, but he shows how if at this Big Bang, if the temperatures had been hotter or cooler, expansion faster or slower, things would have changed on the molecules, the atoms, and the atoms that were being blown out, and solid matter would never have coalesced, and we wouldn't have any of this stuff. Nothing that we wouldn't exist. The universe would be full of some kind of a gas or something, and so it looks like, as I said, the God wanted something to exist, and he created it so that one day something would exist, something where we can live, we can measure it, we can think about it, and he must have wanted us to be here. And that might go into another video, I don't know. And it looks like this is getting on quite a ways. I might end up having to break it up into 2 videos. I hope not, but we shall see. So anyway, maybe I'll do another video on one of the aspects of what I was talking about. Who knows? Have a good one, YouTube. Bye-bye.